Hi there and welcome everyone. I'm Shaileen Shah from Happy Life Habits. I'm a happiness speaker, trainer and coach, and I'm joined today by my good friend Vicky Johnson from the Museum of Happiness. She's the director of the Museum of Happiness and a happiness trainer, facilitator, and an all-round good egg. And she's joining us from California. I love conversations with Vicky. They're inspiring and I learn so much. And Vicky was one of the people who gave my first Science of Happiness training at the Museum of Happiness and was a part of the first cohort, and so grateful and pleased to have been able to take part in that, as well as to get to know Vicky and the other members of the Museum of Happiness.
Shaileen, what a joy and honour it's been to meet you and see this wonderful journey that you've been on, and to now be coming to speak on your amazing organisation. How cool is that? Yeah,
Yes.
Such deep respect for you.
Thank you. And Vicky and I were going to have really just a chat and a conversation about mental health, and soon it's going to be Mental Health Awareness Week, and the theme this year is on loneliness. And we've both experienced various challenges for mental health and loneliness. So we'll share those. We'll share some of the science we've learned around dealing with those. And with those of you who listen to the Happy Life Habits Inspiration Point podcast would have heard Vicky share very openly and wholeheartedly her experiences on that. So that's what the plan is. As part of the Mental Health Awareness Week, we do have a session on community and connection on day one, and that's one where I invited people from various communities I'm part of, with the Museum of Happiness being one, and with Vicky being so passionate about happiness and mental health and all of these areas. I invited her, but she shared that she's not going to actually be around in the country at that time, but she got back to me and said, let's have a conversation and let's record that and let's share that. So that's why we're here. So two happiness people sharing about the ups and downs of happiness, in particular mental health and loneliness. So Vicky, you've just returned from a stint from your second home, Plum Village in France. It's one of the places which was created and inspired by Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese Buddhist monk. Would you like to share a little bit about one of your key learnings or experiences from visiting Plum Village, and just tell us a little bit about it and what you experienced, please?
Yeah. Oh my goodness, it was such a joy and honour to get to return to Plum Village. I've got a little monks that the monks and nuns make these gorgeous little things. So he's joining us in the session. So very happy to be here. Thich Nhat Hanh's work has inspired me in my journey so much, and he talks a lot about how do we create this safe refuge inside of ourselves that we can always come home to, and this sense of the way out is in. So there can be all of this stuff going on around us, and my God, has it been a tough couple of years, right? And I went there really not feeling fantastic in my mental health. I went through the breakups, really quite tough stuff at work, changing the organization, and then I got COVID for the second time in 6 months, and then moved house and then went to Plum Village. So I arrived feeling pretty wobbly, and it was just incredible. It's so restorative, so healing. And the bit that really stuck with me really aligns with the core message at the Museum of Happiness, which is around how do we make friends with our mind? How do we tend to our difficult emotions? How do we choose to show up with love even when we feel awful? And I think that really stuck with me. So they talked a lot about loneliness. There was a real sense of common humanity across everybody. There was people of all walks of life, all ages, all situation scenarios, from people that had been kind of locked down on their own for 2 years, people that were married with children and surrounded by people still felt very lonely, and then everybody in between, single people, people in a couple. And there was this real sense of, the monks and the nuns talk about welcoming in these difficult emotions. So happiness is not a life without adversity, sorrow, difficult emotions, or difficult thoughts. It's not. As humans, this is something we all get to experience. But how do we really nurture our relationship with those difficult emotions, with those difficult thoughts? So thoughts aren't facts. And with our difficult emotions, this really stuck to me, the warmth that they have towards their difficult emotions. So classically, we really don't like it when anger, sadness, fear, anxiety, loneliness comes and knocks at the door of our heart, right? But what if we could treat it like a dear friend? My dear old friend sadness, my dear old friend fear. So they say, you know, hello, my dear friend loneliness, you know, what do you need? How can I best take care of you? And the same with sadness, anger, fear. I loved that. And something that really moved me, so the monks and nuns sang to us one day, and it was a song called I Vow to Live This Day with Love. Moved me so much, I'm literally going to get it tattooed on my arm, along with the No Mud, No Lotus, which was inspired from last time's visit. And the essence of the song was this. This nun was living in a war zone, surrounded by fear, sorrow, death, her, you know, absolutely awful conditions to be living in. And they came up with this song. It's time to stop. It's time to breathe. It's time to take care of myself. How can I heal my wounded heart if I only see the dark? It is our compassion that keeps us through the night. I vow to live this day with love. And it really sang to me in every cell of my body of, you know, I can't always show up with smiles and joy and happiness. When I'm really struggling with my mind or difficult emotions, it doesn't feel authentic and sincere to force a smile. But can I show up with love? Yeah, I can. I can show up with love for something or someone or nature or some things that I'm grateful for. And love is the strongest force in the world, even stronger than fear. So yeah, they were my main takeaways from Plum Village.
Ah, fantastic. And yeah, it reminds me of some of the learnings I've done where we're either driven by fear or we're driven by love in what we do. And when we're driven by fear, then it's, you know, as you said, the anger, the regret, the greediness, and all of those I'd say negative connotations to life. And when we're driven by love, it's peace and kindness and compassion and gratitude and all of these things. And they're all help towards the pro-social behaviors of being connected with others. And with, you know, the mental health and the theme of loneliness, a couple of things that, you know, came to mind as you were sharing. One was the Mental Health Foundation. They've, you know, set the theme this year as loneliness. And one of the things they said was that due to the pandemic, the levels of people feeling loneliness are 3 times higher than pre-pandemic. So the pandemic has really amplified this sense of loneliness. And then the other thing you shared about is, you know, which is often quoted, that we can be surrounded by people but still feel lonely. And, you know, loneliness, you know, one of the, I think, definitions they give us, loneliness is where the number of social connections we have are either less or not what we need, which makes sense because it feels there's a lack of that social connection. And then Brené Brown, who we both love, you know, the quote I often share of hers, you know, she shares in her classic, you know, TED Talk and stuff, that connection is why we're all here. You know, it's what gives us meaning and purpose to our life. So that sense of connection is a driving factor there. And yeah, you've come across the Robert Waldinger work.
Oh, tell me more.
Yeah, so Robert Waldinger was, he's a Harvard researcher. And I think you probably have heard of the study. They did a 75-year study on people who, you know, at Harvard, and, you know, monitor them through their every 2 years through their lives. From,
I know which one you mean.
And Robert Waldinger, you know, is the latest person who's the director of this project. So it's gone through a few different, and he's put a wonderful TED Talk together on this. And in the TED talk, the key message of this 5-year study they share is, and the key learning, he said, is our social connections are the most important for our well-being. So there's other factors there, but our social connections are the most important. And the 3 lessons they took away was that social connections are better for our health and our well-being. Loneliness kills. And that's come through with other things I've heard as well and learned. It's having a high quality of close connections. So not necessarily a large quantity, but a high quality of close ones. And that good relationships are good for the brain and body, which we've come across. And that all ties in the blue zone studies as well, where the people who've lived long and had happy and healthy lives have had good social connections. And it's one of the qualities of the museum of happiness as well. Community and connection.
Absolutely. All of the studies back it up, right? And out of all of the positive psychology, even all of the kind of spiritual teachers will share that same message, right? Relationships matter. It's what gives our life meaning. And you can weather the storms when you're in community, when you have connections with others. That's why I think the last 2 years have been so hard, because many people have to really weather the storms on their own. And it's like, if you think of, if you were to go to prison, for example, one of the kind of punishments is isolation. Solitude. And so I think relationships and connection are so important. Something that I've done a couple of things non-volunteering to be isolated, and then volunteering to be in isolation. So I did a 10-day silent retreat in the Himalayas, Vipassana. So you're not allowed to even look at anybody else or smile or give anyone contact, which everyone was like, you're not going to be able to do that. And I was like, it's going to be really hard. I can't help but smile at people. Or like you have this urge to connect that you have to kind of like suppress somehow. It's really hard. But there was a real sense of learning to have a good relationship with yourself. Being okay in your own company with nothing else to do. There was a study, the monks and nuns talked about it. I can't think of who did it, but if you look online, it will come up. They did a survey and an experiment, and actually did the experiment in person. Would people rather spend 50 minutes on their own, just in their own company, or be electrocuted? And the majority of people chose to be electrocuted, because they just couldn't bear kind of spending that time on their own doing nothing. And I think this brings me back to the importance of how important it is that it's taught in schools. How do we make friends with our mind? Because left alone with our mind, it can be like the devil's playground. We can drive ourselves crazy just left alone with ourselves, because the brain's natural negativity bias, because difficult emotions show up when there's space and we're on our own, and we're not taught how to befriend our difficult emotions. So we can end up almost living in what feels like a haunted house. And what Thich Nhat Hanh's work says is, how do we turn that haunted house into an inner sanctuary, so that we can feel at peace in our own company for prolonged periods of time? This sense of we're alone, but we're not lonely. And I think it's an art and a skill which takes brain training, and we need something that we all need to practice.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you mentioned that. I was going to touch upon that. There being a difference between being alone and feeling lonely, and we can choose to be alone, where we sometimes just need some me time or some time to just reflect or be quiet and be by ourselves, and that's important. We can't just be with everyone all the time, so we need some of that time, and that's when we're chosen to have that time and have that alone time. And feeling lonely is, as I said, that sense of the lack of connections, and closely linked with depression. And I think in one of the short videos I've done on mental health, I kind of said that loneliness and depression are closely linked. I'm not sure if loneliness causes depression or depression causes loneliness. I'm not sure which way around it is,
so
but they're both, yeah.
Yeah, I really feel it. I have had 2 times in my life where I have fallen into a depression and got stuck there. And I had all the tools, you know, I was doing the mindfulness, I was doing the gratitude, the self-compassion, you know, I was going to a therapist, and it was something that I just needed to go through. I had to go to that place to be able to come back out the other side with new learnings, with new lotuses from the mud. And it was so hard, it was so difficult, because I remember feeling so disconnected from myself, from others, from the world. And so there's a sense of deep loneliness because I disconnected from love. I disconnected. I could be in a room full with people and feel really alone. And that was because of the kind of frame of mind I was in. But then you're more likely to isolate yourself and not be around people because it holds a mirror, and you're like, oh, I just feel extra lonely even though I'm in a crowd full of people, or I'm with my best friends, or so yeah, I don't have the answers, but I think it's really, really interlinked, just is the kind of loop between depression and loneliness.
Yeah, and it brings you to another a powerful quote that I, again, you know, recall on this. It's by the actor Robin Williams. So he's one of my favorite actors. You know, Mrs. Doubtfire, Good Morning Vietnam, Good Will Hunting, all, you know, it's such a diverse character in Mork and Mindy, if we grew up with that. So it's a whole range of characters he plays and brings a lot of joy and happiness to a lot of people. And in fact, you know, just yesterday we watched The Awakening, which is with him and Robert De Niro. Fantastic movie, so I highly recommend that. But you know, he had his challenges, and you know, brought joy to everyone, but had his challenges. And one of them, you know, a few years ago, took his own life. But one of the things he, you know, shared, which really hit home, and I think, you know, for me, you know, is kind of the thread for this whole loneliness theme is, you know, I used to think, and he quoted it as saying, I used to think the worst thing in the world was being alone. It's not. It's being with people who make you feel alone. And that was just like, wow. So, you know, it's, and what it gives, or what it tries for me there is that as me as an individual, I can have the responsibility as well as the ability to help other people not feel alone. And the spiritual teachings teach us that, you know, unconditional love, universal friendship, loving kindness, you know, appreciate the qualities of others. All of these are, you know, again, you know, pro-social things. But if we are able to live from those qualities and values more often, and they're all, at the end of the day, expressions of love, then, you know, there is no need for one of the quotes I actually just put together in train of thought I shared just today was, you know, there's almost 8 billion people on this world. 8 billion. How can loneliness exist? It shouldn't exist with 8 billion people. So that's the problem. But the solution is us. And it's us being a little bit more kinder, a little bit more happier, a little bit more friendlier, and a little bit more connected. And all it takes is a smile, a hello, or a how are you? And that's the things, again, the tools that, you know, that you're teaching at with Mutual Happiness and all the happiness areas are teaching us to be and do, to be more mindful, to be more grateful, to be more happier, and be more kind, and
to be more compassionate, isn't it? Yeah. Like having kindness on our radar, you know, kindness to ourselves, others, animals, the planet, and it just has this ripple effect. Yeah, I think, and when people are being difficult, it's usually because they're really suffering and they're really struggling. And can we still show up with compassion for them and not just be like, oh, I don't want to spend time with them because they you know, whatever. It's tough, isn't it? It's really tough. But yeah, I think kindness at the core is really important, and as all really taking a sense of empowerment to really look after our well-being as best we can. So that little bit of meditation, that gratitude practice, that going out and connecting with nature, I think helps us build connection with ourselves and something higher.
Yeah.
And I know myself, when I felt very disconnected from myself, from others, from the world, it's because I've stopped doing those things. So a sense of like maybe not going out in nature as much, or not, you know, not doing the gratitude practices. So it's like, for me, so I think my happiness set point is, I don't think it's a really high happiness set point, but I do the work. So Professor Sonia Luberinsky's work, she's a positive psychologist, you'll probably know this. They say we have a happiness set point which influences our happiness. It's not set in stone, everything is influenced and changeable, but say about 40% of our happiness, 50% of our happiness influenced on our genetics.
Yes.
About 10% on our income and environment, and the whole 40% on our actions that we do. So, you know, action for happiness, you know, talk about this, it's about the actions we do for our happiness and our well-being. It's in our power, and as the Dalai Lama says, happiness doesn't come ready-made, it comes from our own actions. So we have to consciously do things to feel pleasure, purpose and peace. And I know if I don't feel happy. Like, I have to really work at it. The difficult thoughts get more difficult, the difficult emotions get more difficult, and the sense of feeling connected to myself, others, something higher starts to disconnect. So I really work at it, and I really see the difference when I don't.
Completely. And that 40% is the only thing we've got control over.
Yes, so exactly.
So the message is that I share is that what we're going to do is we will put 100% of our time, energy, and attention on that 40%, which is the only thing we can control. And in doing so, you know, we are able to do these various practices. We are able to do reflection. We're able to apply our choice, and in doing that, we can help release the happier chemicals, which then help us feel better and flush out the stress chemicals.
How cool is that? How cool is that we can actually do that? We can give ourselves a dose of happiness chemicals by the things that we do. And then the flip side, I guess, is I think they say something like not moving the body is like taking a depressant.
Yes.
And there's lots of things, isn't there, where it's like doing certain things drives unhappiness. Satish Kumar talks about complaining, criticizing, comparing can be the drivers of unhappiness. So yeah, I think having it on our radar every day, I wake up and I think, what do I need to best take care of myself today? And what am I going to do today for peace, pleasure, and purpose? They're my 3 P's of sustainable happiness. And
peace, pleasure, and purpose.
Okay. And I don't leave my happiness to chance anymore. I don't leave my happiness to chance. I don't leave my self-care to chance. I literally think, okay, set the intention. What am I going to do? I put it in my calendar. Otherwise, other people put things in my calendar. And I consciously design for happiness, for love, for connection, for peace, because I know that I have to.
Yes. So I know one of the things you do is a silent Monday.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about that and some of the other nurturing practices you provide?
Yes, absolutely. So I was quite struggling a lot with difficult thoughts and emotions on quite a regular place, and I'd come through a period of depression, and I thought, do you know what, I need to take some time out to actually go deeper and it's kind of like spring clean of your insides and your brain, right? Like, what's going on in my inner world? This keeps I'm getting pulled into this. I did Vipassana, and it was really incredible to have that level of learning how to master the mind, that stillness, that peace that we can cultivate within ourselves. And so when I came back to England, I was like, okay, you need to keep doing this. And I was meditating for maybe like an hour a day, and I was really noticing the difference. And then when we did, when COVID hit, we were obviously all forced into a Vipassana, and we were forced to stay in and be with ourselves and work through our stuff, whether we liked it or not, right?
Yes.
I was really struggling. The whole organization, I was like, okay, we can't, everything we used to do, we can't do anymore. So my basic needs were at threat. Like, how are you going to pay, your rent, your bills, your food if you can't work? Which I know I have a lot of compassion, was the same boat for so many of us. And as Thich Nhat Hanh says, the way out is in. I was like, this is completely out of my control now. My fear was like so loud. And I thought, okay, the only thing you can do is go in, meditate more. You know that this works. You know that this makes you feel calmer and more connected. So I was like, right, every Monday, instead of kind of frantically worrying about how I'm going to run the organization now, have a day of meditation. Make your own meditation retreat every Monday. So turn my phone off, put my out of office on, and just sat on the meditation cushion, and I would meditate, do my gratitude, I would paint, all these different things. And at first I was like, oh my God, how am I ever going to turn my phone off for a whole day? And you go through all these like things in your head of like basically really over catastrophizing. Like, it was totally fine. And I think through that kind of quite crazy year, I had a day of meditation every single week. And I connected to love, to faith, to peace, to myself again. And we managed to completely transform the organization. We had probably the best year we'd ever had. And nothing in my life had changed in terms of the kind of external stresses at first, but my ability to hold it and my capacity to deal with the volatile, uncertain, complex nature of the world, I became more emotionally resilient. So I did Silent Monday for 2 years. And then I kind of started to get a lot of resistance towards it. Like, the world had opened back up again. And I didn't feel the need to do it. And then since being in the monastery, and again, going back to having quite a few hours of meditation a day, I was like, you do need it. Like, don't just do it when you're in a place of crisis. Do it because it's really good for you. Yeah. Taking vitamins instead of like waiting till you need a really strong painkiller.
Exactly.
So I'm going to start doing it again. So I'm staying with my mentor in the States at the moment, and we talked about it yesterday. I was like, let's do one a week, definitely. And I want to start doing that again. It's the greatest act of service I can do to myself. And then when I'm more peaceful and happier, more grounded, more emotionally resilient, everybody around me benefits too. The organization benefits, my colleagues benefit, my family, everybody benefits. So it feels like an act of service to me and everybody around me.
No, absolutely. And I know during the last year and a bit when we've caught up, and you've been saying, you've been doing the, we can't meet on a Monday because Silent Monday, when we have caught up, I can, feel and sense the groundedness and the centeredness for sure. So, I think it's a very inspiring thing because it's not easy, especially in this day and age where we're glued to our phones and messages and that. But I think it's very powerful because it, as you said, just allows things to settle and allows us to tap into more of our creative, areas, and yeah, but also I think that regular practice that you are doing is also helping to train the brain, train the mind, and create the new neural networks that, okay, this is the way of being for me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, really powerful. And, maybe to many people it might seem a bit extreme. Like, you don't need to go to the Himalayas and do Vipassana. You don't necessarily need to do a whole day of meditation, turn your phone off, but can you start with 10 minutes? Turn your phone off for 10 minutes, put it in the drawer, and meditate for 10 minutes, and then maybe build up to 20, half an hour. Can you have an hour a week where you do it, and then maybe work up to a day? And I think it's so powerful. I think it's one of the greatest gifts that we can give to ourselves, because we're kind of taking responsibility for our well-being. We're taking our happiness, self-care, and well-being into our own hands. And imagine a world where everybody does that.
Yes. Yeah, and the whole energy would be different, and tolerance levels would be different, and communities, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think it just helps us tend to our suffering. As humans, we're going to experience pain, we're going to experience suffering. It's part of the human experience. And I think in day-to-day life, we're so busy. Most of us are so busy. And even, just with our phones, there's a constant source of distraction that's really, really easy for us to distract ourselves. And I think it's so important that we have time where we can process things and really be with ourselves. And if you think of it as kind of like a bit of a spring clean of our inner world, of our mind, we do with our houses, right? So with our houses, we'll do a spring clean every so often. And I think, Rumi, there's a beautiful Rumi poem. It's one of mine and Shaileen's favourite poems, Rumi, the Guest House. So the sense of being human is a guest house, and every day there's a new arrival, these thoughts, these emotions and different things. How are we taking care of our guest house? Like, how often are we spring cleaning? Does it need some TLC, our guest house? And it's like, think of a beautiful instrument. We need to take care of that instrument for it to play beautiful music. What I've realized is, in this sense of kind of with nature as well. So if an apple tree isn't getting the right kind of nutrients, care that it needs, it's not going to produce beautiful fruit. And what I realized is, when I'm really, really stressed or disconnected or coming from a place of fear, the work I produce isn't very good. And like what Shaileen said, you could notice a difference, when I'm meditating, I'm more grounded, I'm more peaceful. So yeah, I would say it's been such a gift that keeps on giving, to just keep carving out bits of time to do things that make you feel happiness and at peace, because it's not selfish. The more peaceful, or the more we carve out time for self-care, really nurture ourselves, tend to ourselves, it's a gift to everybody that comes into contact with us.
It's a gift and it's a necessity. For me, my couple of my self-care routines are similar, where it's a few minutes of meditation, it's a few moments of journaling in the morning and in the evening with the gratitude. It's making sure there's some time for connection and reflection, but also and exercise, physical exercise and faith and all that. But it's also sleep, the other important one.
Yeah, precious sleep and food, the food we eat.
Absolutely, and the sleep and the food we eat, and that. Well, the food we eat is what we're consuming to nourish our bodies, and similarly, what we consume, whether from TV or newspaper, is feeding our mind. Those are absolute aspects. One thing that two things actually. So one of the things that you just shared remind me of a Sean Acker quote. So he's one of the science of Acker's researchers as well, as you know, and it's another quote I love sharing. It's, when the brain's on positive, it's 31% more productive than when negative, neutral, or stressed. So negative, neutral, or stressed, not very productive, but when it's on positive, it's 31% more productive. And I think from what you just shared, and also from my own experience of when I've had stress or ambiguity, you just don't feel like doing things. You lose that sense of purpose, and you just kind of shut down.
Overwhelmed as well, aren't you? You're so overwhelmed.
Yeah. But I do like that what you shared about the Silent Mondays and the whole self-care of it's allowing us to carry what we need to carry and pick it up again. But it's a case of those practices let us put it down and we build our strength to be able to pick it up again. If we're constantly just holding onto it, then we're going to suffer. Yeah.
And it gets too heavy. Like we carry around the heavy bags of the past and the future every moment of every day. And it's like, it's too heavy. We need to have moments where we place down the past, we place down the future. And the past and the future are just a collection of thoughts. All there is this moment right now. This very moment is all that actually exists. But we carry so much. And then because of the nature of the mind, the negativity bias, we tend to ruminate on things that have caused us pain and suffering. So we relive it. And so, yeah, we need to just put it down, even if it's for 5 minutes. Put down the heavy bags of the past and the future. Use the breath to anchor us into the here and now. And I think the kind self-talk can be really useful as well. Just reminding yourself, doing the best I can right now, and that's all I can do. And I think what we often do as humans is when things are tough already, we berate ourselves, we beat ourselves up. And it's like the Buddha talks about it being the second arrow. So it's like pain is inevitable. So if someone was to shoot you with an arrow in your arm, for example, you can't control that. That's already happened. But then often we put the second arrow in ourselves because we cause ourselves so much. We really beat ourselves up about it instead of being kind and gentle with ourselves. So I think if you're already going through something really difficult, let's not attack ourselves as well. Let's try and treat ourselves as we would treat a really good friend. And it can be hard, that transition. If you have been used to giving yourself a really hard time your whole life, which is so natural for humans that we do this, we can just start small, just even if you're not feeling very good. So if feeling stressed, feeling sad, check in with what your inner chatter and your inner dialogue is saying, because a lot of the times it's not helpful. So just checking in, you could just be like, oh, okay, is this helpful what I'm saying to myself? And notice the tone that you're saying it in. So we have the capacity to kind of soothe our nervous system, or to make our nervous system feel like we're actually being attacked. And that's with our voice, our tone, what we're saying to ourselves. So if you're saying to yourself, oh my God, you're a stupid idiot, I can't believe you've done that, you're such a failure, your whole nervous system thinks it's being attacked. If you say to yourself, it's okay, Poppet, everybody makes mistakes, I'm here for you, it's okay, your whole nervous system soothes and relaxes. So let's play around with that as best we can.
Yeah, fantastic. What you were just sharing now, and also what you started with the Plum Village and the message and experiences you had, where what I took away from that was it was the message that we will have some of the negative emotions like anger and sadness and loneliness and regret and so forth. And it's a case of acknowledge them, label them, be aware of them, but then choose to move on. And it reminded me of the Disney film or the Pixar film Inside Out.
Inside Out, yes. Oh my God, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's only when she was able to acknowledge the sadness, then things started to change and shift for her.
Things transform. So if you imagine our difficult emotions come and knock at the door of our heart. So with the core emotions, anger, sadness, fear, disgust, and joy. we love hanging out with joy. We wish joy would stay forever. And then we really don't like hanging out with the others, really. Sadness can be a really hard one to be with. But if, you know, sadness, our emotions, our difficult emotions are just messengers. So sadness comes often because it wants us to slow down and honor that something has been sad. And when we cry, it's showing to others that we need more compassion at the moment. So slowing down, honoring, we care and hurt in the same places. Anger is often a call to action. You know, this something has made us angry. Fear, maybe we need to protect ourselves with something. Disgust, oh, I need to move away from this. And then joy, let's do more of this, it feels good. So your difficult emotions, imagine they've traveled a really long way to get your attention, and then eventually they get louder and louder until we really listen to them, because they have a really important message. They feel they have a really important message for you. So they've traveled a long time, they come and knock at the door of your heart and they want to give you this message. And a lot of the time we're like, oh my God, sadness, go away, I don't want to be with you. Or, oh my God, I hate anger. Sadness gets more sad, anger gets more angry, fear gets more scared, because we're just not listening to them. And imagine if that was like a little frightened kitten, how we would treat that. We'd probably scoop it up and it's like, it's okay, I'm going to take care of you. Or a little sad puppy, you know, we wouldn't be like, go away, you're not welcome here. We'd be like, oh, I'll take care of you. So trying to have that same warmth and gentleness with our difficult emotions as best we can. And something that one of the elder nuns said, which I thought was brilliant, is, and put some boundaries in place. They're not allowed to just pitch a tent in your living room and stay for the month, right? So what I've found in the past is it's been an interesting balance with welcoming sadness in. So for many years, I would not go near sadness. I would be like, no way, I'm not going near it. I would throw myself into the light. But actually, I don't recommend that, because it's like if you keep sweeping things under the carpet, eventually you're going to end up with a huge mountain that you then one day going to really trip over and fall. So it's really healthy to welcome in our difficult emotions, listen to their message, and we don't want them to stay there for ages. So one of the nuns was saying, you know, you can even say, hello, my sadness, you know, I'm here to listen with love. What's your message? Journal it out, see if anything comes, play around with it. We can try and keep it light, because our difficult emotions can feel really heavy. And you can say, you know, I have an hour to be with you, and then I need to go. And then one of the other monks was saying sometimes, so anger came really strongly, and he was like, I'm going to book an appointment with you tomorrow and I'm going to really listen to you, but right now I can't do this with you. So kind of having this dialogue with our emotions, this warmth, this like our relationships, we need to nurture our relationships. We need to nurture this within ourselves as well, was their advice. And I love that advice.
Fantastic. Now, that's still really, I think, insightful sharings there. So thank you for that. Anything else you'd like to share regarding mental health or loneliness, or your own experiences of it? And you've shared bits and pieces, and I shared a couple, but is there, anything more that you'd like to address?
There's one other thing that's really, really helped me, and the research will back it up too, and millions of other people will probably say the same, is volunteering. If you are not feeling so good, volunteering is one of the best ways for your energy to regenerate itself, to connect to something more meaningful, be around people with shared values, and it just lights you up. So when I went to India and I volunteered at an animal rescue centre, and just being able to get out of my own head and out of all of my own sorrow that I was carrying and all my own difficult emotions, and just be of service. There's something so humbling, something so connecting, and something feels so meaningful. And I think that's something I would recommend to anybody. If you're feeling a little bit lost, disconnected, sad, difficult emotions, trauma, whatever it is that's causing you sorrow and pain, see if you can be of service. It could be in a small way, a big way, whatever it is. And the different times in my life where I've volunteered has been such a healing experience that has transformed how I've felt for the better.
Absolutely, and I fully echo that. When I had the work-related stress, volunteering was one of the things that helped me during that time, along with gratitude and walking and mindfulness and all of these. But I did recognize that volunteering help, and it's been a core part of actually the things I've been. Yeah, things I've done for over the last X number of years, and many of the communities I'm part of are where there's an aspect of volunteering there, or it's or taking up roles on a voluntary basis. So for sure on that, one which I think I'd like to share and connect with is service space. You're one of the service space.
Love service space.
Yeah, you're one of the service space Awakening Circle hosts, along with a few other ones here in London or in the UK. And service space completely run by volunteers, and Nipun Mehta, the spearhead and inspiration behind it. And one of the projects early on, after I left my corporate work, and where I met Shamash and a few other people from the Museum of Happiness and other happiness people, as well as other people from Awakening and Service Space, was a karma kitchen that we did for the International Day of Happiness a few years back in. Going there, volunteering, taking part in creating food and serving food to the guests, and then being presented with a bill which said zero because somebody had paid it forward for them. But just that whole experience of helping and being part of it was wonderful, and you felt part of a community. And that's, I think, one of the really important things that helps address loneliness and isolation: community and connection. Being there. And one example that I do want to share, which was, I was at a service space Awakening Circle. Nipun was here in London during that time, and we had I can't remember if he did a talk or someone else did a talk. There'd been a good talk, and we're waiting to have our meal or having our meal, and there was a circle there where it was Nipun and a few other people. And I was off to the side, just kind of listening a bit here and just watching that, but on my own in a way, but not with anyone else. I'm not inside the circle. And one of the things that Nipun did was, he called me over, opened up the circle kind of thing, pulled me in, and it got me involved in the conversation, or being part of that huddle, as it were, and also introduced me to a couple of people and made that connection. But that gesture of being aware that there's someone on their own,
outside of the circle, bring them in,
and just that small act of kindness and that gesture, has stuck on for me, and it's one which I aspire to do where I can in myself in that manner, because I recognize it and felt it then, and that, I think, is something we can all easily do off, as we said, a smile, a hello, or a how are you, or just making sure we check in and include
everybody. Having kindness and inclusivity on our radar wherever we go, whatever we do. Treat people how we want to be treated. Yeah, absolutely. Service space has been such a source of love and support, community, meaning and purpose in my life. It's really shaped who I am as a person. It has shaped the organization that we run, and I'm so grateful to them. I actually haven't been running Awaken Circles since COVID, but I volunteered in a couple of retreats there, and I just hold such a dear place in my heart. Trishna, Annie, Meeta, Ava, Nipun. I remember about 7 years ago. I didn't have really a spiritual practice. I didn't have a sense of community. I was living in London. It was really just on the cusp of starting this journey that I've been on. And I walked into a gifted retreat held at Trishna's house. Nipun, Satish Kumar just was showered with love and kindness, and there was no price tag. Everything was offered as a gift in service. And I remember feeling so moved by love and so looked after by these strangers. Ultimately, they were strangers at the time. Just that love, warmth, that these human beings. And they don't want anything in return. There was no price tag, no hidden agenda. It was just to be kind and to be of service. It moved something in me. That then made me want to meditate more, made me want to start my own community organization, to be able to just, you know, these small acts with great love and these beautiful ripple effects that happen. And so yeah, I owe so much to Service Space and the love and the kindness that I have received. I feel like I constantly want to pay it forward. I've still got so much to pay forward from the love and kindness I've received. We're doing a gifted retreat here actually, at my mentor's house in 2 weeks. Wow. It feels like, yeah, still forever paying it forward from the love and kindness I've received from the Service Space community.
No, it's been brilliant, and it's from Service Space, you know, one of the awakening circles where I first got to meet you and the rest of the gang. And just as you were, you know, getting launched with the initial building. And, so I remember that well, and I remember the warm welcome that you said, yeah, just come to the training and just come to the opening and all of these things. So thank you for that. Great. I think that brings us close to our time.
Yeah, I think so too.
Anything you'd like to share before we, wrap?
Yeah, firstly, thank you so much for inviting me to come and share a little bit of my story and journey. I think it's really important as somebody that runs a happiness organization that, you know, I don't just share the happy stuff, right? It's like we're human, we all go through our ups and downs in life, and that's what it is to be human. So I wanted to share a bit of the kind of more raw, real things today about my own journey and story, and I hope that it gives other people permission to do the same. I think it's really easy to feel like we can't share what's really going on at the fear of being judged or rejected, but Brené Brown talks a lot about actually the power of vulnerability. It's courage and strength, and people really appreciate it. And there's nobody I know that hasn't ever had a difficult thought or a difficult emotion, or somebody that hasn't ever felt lonely. I think it's part of the human condition. So there's a real sense of common humanity in that. So let's keep trying our best to talk about it, and it loses its power, that little voice of fear, like, oh my God, I can't actually say that out loud to people. And then the other thing, we have a community club. It was born through COVID, of just, you know, how do we still connect? How do we learn tools to weather the storms together? So it's on a Monday night, and it's £10 a month. But if money is a barrier to anybody, we have a give back scheme. So if you go on our website, you'll see Happier World Club, and then on another tab you'll say give back. So whatever feels comfortable to you. There's lots of options, and we've got Satish Kumar coming on the 16th of May. He is such a being of love. He's somebody that when you're in his presence, you cannot help but be inspired, feel peace and feel love. Like it's contagious somehow, his peace and love. So it's a really special opportunity. He's in his 80s now, so do come along if you can, and soak up his love and peace.
And tell us of some of the other themes and speakers that are happening throughout the year.
Yeah, definitely. So, oh my goodness, we've just been so blessed with these kind of world famous people saying yes. It usually costs thousands of pounds to get them, and they just maybe felt moved by love and to be of service. So we've got Satish Kumar in May, and then we've got this amazing lady called MHAW. She's Europe's #1 self-mastery coach. She's absolutely incredible woman. We have got Dr. John Gray, so quite a famous relationship.
From Venus.
Yeah, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, the book that he's very famous for. So talking about cultivating happier relationships, multi-award winning therapist Marissa Peer. Oh God, she's just incredible. She's done really pioneering work on how to make friends with your mind. Andrea Hencott is my mentor, who I'm staying with her in the States. She's just an extraordinary woman. Her nickname is Wise Mama Wisdom. I'm very, very lucky and blessed to be surrounded by her wisdom, and really looking forward to people meeting her and getting to soak up that wisdom. Emma Slade, so she was like a badass businesswoman turned Buddhist nun. She got held hostage at gunpoint when she was a businesswoman, and she's now a Buddhist nun. Like, she's just got an incredible journey. Basically, there's loads of inspiring speakers coming throughout the year, and what we're doing with Happier World Club, you get 4 sessions for that £10. It's like £2.50 a week. It really supports the Museum of Happiness well and helps us do our give back stuff. So you have 1 week learning the science and art of a certain topic. You have the inspiring guest speaker sharing circle with the rest of the community of, you know, what did it mean to you? What are our learnings and reflections? And then there's a virtual beach meetup where you just get to hang out with people and chat and connect. So, oh, the community is such big-hearted, lovely people. Like, they're just awesome people that tend to come. So it's really inclusive as well. People of all walks of life, all ages, backgrounds. So come join us. Come join the lovely community.
Yeah, no, the energy in the atmosphere and the sense of warmth at the Museum of Happiness gatherings is just brilliant. It's what I've really enjoyed in being part of that, but I haven't been able to join some the online stuff recently, but we'll look to.
If you can.
Yes.
Come for Satish if you can.
Tell us, so that's that part, and then tell us a bit about the happiness training. That's the other offering.
Yeah, like Shaileen. So if you are interested in learning the science and art of happiness in more depth, some people come just to learn it from themselves, but what a lot of people do, like Shaileen, is go on and share it with others. So it's a happiness facilitator training. So, you know, I teach everybody from companies like Google, Facebook, military, the NHS, to school children, to the elderly, to the homeless, and the training's universal. Everybody wants to learn how to be happier and live a happier, more peaceful, meaningful life. So you can come and I teach you everything that I know. There's no shortage of unhappiness in the world. We're in a global mental health crisis. So we need more people learning this, embodying it, teaching it and sharing it. So we have a 6-week course online. So we have people joining from all over the world. Or I've got a 2-day weekend training back for the first time since COVID. I'm flying home specially for it in August. Got a 2-day one just for 20 people where they can learn in a kind of a retreat setting with me. So really excited for that.
Fantastic. And if they want to know more about this or sign up to the Museum of Happiness newsletter and be in touch, it's museumofhappiness.org. And there's a Facebook page as well, correct?
Yeah, and we're on Instagram as well. So yeah, the newsletter is a work of art. It's done by Anya, who's our head of positive psychology. She's such a gifted writer, and she really cares. Like, she's such a being of love. And so there's so much gold in the newsletters of just beautiful techniques and stories and inspiration. And then it's a way to just stay up to date with all the things that we're doing as well. And yeah, so join our newsletter.
Fantastic. And really, experiment and give it a go. The stuff that Museum of Happiness, this is phenomenally brilliant. And commit to your Mondays there every month, or well, every week for the whole month on a particular theme and continuing. And it's that regular dose of happiness and inspire people in the community that we all need, and that then we can build into our lives. So definitely encourage there. Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, your journey is so inspiring, and thank you so much for inviting me here. It's been such a joy to have this conversation together, and I hope that even if there's one tiny thing that resonates with people or feels useful, then it's it's worth it for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It will be, and yeah, like I said, I enjoy catching up with you.
Always a joy. Thank you, Shaileen.
Thank you.
Take care.